welcome back to another Insider. I hope you had a wonderful week and you studying a brand new one in the best possible way. Last week, I introduced you to my new course, Learning Portuguese, the adult version of my language course. And today I am going to talk about learning a second language more broadly. What I believe it's more important when you are learning a new language, and what might have been the challenges that some platforms may be posing to new learners. So come with me and let's talk about learning languages. So let's talk about learning a new language and what are the challenges and what you possibly should be looking for when looking for a platform to learn a new language, any language really, not just, for example, Portuguese, which is the one I am teaching. What are the things that you should look for, and what I found that are the main complaints of people that are really paying for this type of service, and what they are getting on this type of service, and what are the critics that I hear from people that are actually or have enrolled in existing platforms and things that are currently on the market. So one of the things is the platforms. There's a lot of platforms in the market, and they may be very good, for example, to get you by with a few sentences. For example, if you go to the country, how to say hello, how to say thank you, how to say I'm looking for this place. Those really basic sentences, but they teach you the basic sentences. And yeah, okay, you go to a new country and you think you have that support, you think that you learn those things, and then, for example, you come across with the local, you ask a question, you are asking them in the language, so they assume that you might speak their language and they answer you something that goes outside that content that you have learned, and you totally lost. You won't be able to reply back, and you have a problem. I know that a lot of people are using apps for, translation apps to do the work. They also have a lot of flaws, especially when it comes to localization. Localization is a term that we use in the translation industry, and it regards to the country where the languages are spoken, because you know that a lot of languages, most of them have variants because they are spoken in more than one country. And then, of course, in every country that the languages are spoken, the language has evolved in a different way, so it kind of deviated a little from that main language that eventually, created it all. But obviously, even the main language has evolved because languages are in constant evolution. And if you are, for example, and this happens a lot with Portuguese, and it was one of the reasons that led to me creating these courses, was exactly that. I was getting a lot of people that were trying to learn Portuguese, and then they were paying for these platforms. They were thinking that they were learning, and then their Portuguese relatives were telling them, "Oh no, but that's not Portuguese. That's Portuguese from Brazil. That's different." So it's a problem, because you will find that with these variants, and in the case of Portuguese, you will find that there is some words that can be offensive in one country, they are not in the other, and vice versa. You can find that some words that refer to something in one country and refers to something else entirely in the other. So if you are talking about something and you mix, apples with potatoes, obviously you're going to get confused and you're going to get problems. So this is what I think, and this is the reason why I created my courses, actually encouraged by someone that was actually trying to learn the Portuguese language, and she was not getting what she was looking for. Her Portuguese relatives were telling her that she was not actually learning Portuguese. She was learning the variant from Brazil. She was learning, basic sentences that were really not getting her anywhere. So this is not the way I believe you learn a language. It's flawed because you learn languages, you learn the sentences. It gives you that false sense of fluency or false sense of confidence. And then, for example, let's imagine you move to Portugal, you need to go to some department to ask for your tax file number, let's imagine, or any other thing, and you get totally lost because you don't really know. And even if you use those apps, it might not really give you that. It might not give you the answers that you need, because the translations in those apps, we know they have improved over the years, but they still not 100%. And then, for example, in the case of a language like Portuguese is a very cultural driven language. You have lots of cultural traces, lots of even the body language is one of the languages that even the body language is already telling you something. So the way people talk. So if they say, give me something, chances are they're going to point out what they want, and they're going to point out to the thing. And that's part of the entire, culture, the entire dynamics with the Portuguese language. And I think learning a language just by learning a few sentences, yes, some platforms, and I've heard of these, some platforms offer you contact with someone that might be Portuguese, and you have to train a few sentences, and you talk to the platform, and the platform recognizes your voice and your pronunciation and tells you if you are right or wrong. Well, I would say that's a slightly better approach to things. However, it's still not ideal. If you are learning a language, I would say you need to learn the core of the language. You need to learn the structure. You need to learn how to make those sentences, how those sentences work, what is the dynamics for you to build sentences in that language. So you build independence and fluency. That's what is important in one language. And if you don't get to that stage, you may get by, but you will never really get by, if you know what I mean, if you like. It's like, it might get you by answering simple questions. And for example, if you are going to be 2 weeks in Portugal, it may get you by. You may think, okay, it shows that I'm making an effort with the locals, and it might really show that I'm really committed to this. But in reality, it would be much better if you go, first of all, if you speak a language, then you can see the options that you have on the table. Because if you go to a country and, for example, you don't know the language, you just know that get you by thing, you go to one restaurant, two restaurants, and if you don't understand, maybe the local restaurants are not going to have English, and if you can actually read, you would see what's on the menu, and you will think, oh, this is a local restaurant, and the prices might be much better, and I assure you, the quality of the food, it will be much better for sure. So it's not just a case of being independent and feeling that you have more confidence in that particular country. It's also a economics thing, because you may be able to see and make more informed choices because you are able to read. And for example, if there's someone trying to scam you with something that's not quite right, if you actually know the language, if you actually know how to read signs and how to know and navigate the rules that might be in whatever country you are, chances are you are less likely to be scammed, because you know the lingo, you understand what is written, and you can navigate those challenges by yourself. So this is what I think it's important when you learn a language. It's learning the rules of the language and being independent. If you get that structure, first of all, you need to know the structure of the language. You need to know how do you build up those sentences, which are, the bricks, the bricks and mortar of any language. If you know how to build up those sentences, how to create paragraphs, how to interpret things, body language, etc., you build confidence. That confidence will build that independence. And once you get to that independence, you get to that fluency. And that is a much better thing to achieve than just getting you by. Especially, for example, if you are moving to that country, if you are thinking of living in that country, either for an extensive period of time or for 1 or 2 years, whatever, if you learn the language, it opens you horizons, because you are able to live independently in that country without any help of anybody, because you know the language. You can go. Of course, you might still think that if you are signing an important contract, you might still want, and I obviously encourage a lawyer, because it would be someone that is really confident with the laws of the country, etc., etc. That does not take away that you might need, for example, legal services to sign contracts, to deal with immigration. But some easiest tasks, for example, if you need to call immigration and ask for something, you might be able to do it on your own, and then convey the message to your lawyer, for example. It's a much independent dynamics on things that may lead to you feeling more at home if you are actually moving to that country, and help you massively navigate the systems, even shopping, doing everything. Your daily, everyday life would be massively helped if you really know the language in its core. It is really important. Having that vocabulary acquisition, having that dictionary work done, encouraging research, so you can, develop that language in a way that you gain that vocabulary, you know that structure, then you just need to use those rules, apply them, and be independent. I think that is the pivotal part of learning a second language, and that is the reason why I created my courses, because I wanted to provide what people were telling me they were frustrated about. First of all, I wanted to provide something that was in Portuguese, because most of the products in the market are for Brazilian Portuguese, the variant of the Portuguese language from Brazil, which is rather different. Then I wanted to tackle these issues, these frustrations that people have told me they have in regards to the language learning, that they don't really feel confident 100%. They feel that, yeah, okay, I may say hello, I may say thank you, I may say I want, for example, I want a Portuguese start, something like that. But then if the conversation deviates slightly from that, and I can assure you, if we are talking about Portuguese, the Portuguese are pros into starting one conversation, and in 5 minutes the conversation already went to something else entirely. So it's quite possible that it will happen to you if, for example, you are living in Portugal and you're talking with Portuguese people. And this is just an example. I'm pretty sure in other cultures will happen something similar. And then if that happens, you might feel totally lost again. You either have to use those apps, which might not be, of course, it kills the fluency, it kills the dynamics of the conversation. If every single time a person talks, they have to talk to a mobile phone, so it has a translation back and forward. So obviously that will break the conversation, and it won't make it as interesting, obviously. So if you know the language, that fluency, that will happen. Of course, I'm not going to say that you take a 20-day, 30-day course and you're going to be fluent in Portuguese or in any other language. You need to do your work. You need to keep improving, keep training, keep doing that dictionary work that I'm talking about, learning more languages, learning more words rather, learning, having a thesaurus helps massively, dictionaries, etc. Now there's plenty of options online as well. So that work, of course, you need to do that work. And that is the core of learning a language. It's that you learn those rules, you learn those grammatical rules, the sentence, how to use certain words, how to combine the words and what do they mean, etc., etc. And then acquire that vocabulary that will allow you to expand your knowledge and to be independent. This is what I have done in my course, because I believe that if you know the rules, if you know those principles behind every single sentence, how you build the sentence, what, for example, the subject, the verb, the object, all those things that you need to put in a sentence. And for example, if we are talking about someone that is an English native speaker and is trying to learn Portuguese, for example, they will find that a lot of things are rather different, especially when you're building a sentence. The rules are rather different, and you need to do that. It's exactly the same thing as when a then Portuguese native speaker, when I was learning English, it was exactly the same. I needed to do that in order to learn English, which has a structure that is slightly different. The words are slightly different, etc. The vocabulary, of course. And it's challenging. Of course it is. But if you do it the right way, if you keep on exercising yourself, if you keep on researching new words and doing exercises, plenty of exercises, you will get there fast. I remember I had a teacher in high school, an English teacher, and she told me I was dreadful in English back then. And she was telling me that I would never learn English if I could not think in English. And I thought, when she said that, I thought, oh my God, how can this be possible? If I cannot speak English, how can I even think in English? And today, I know she was right. She was 100% right. Actually, the next year, I went from being a very, very mediocre, student. I had a very horrible mark, a fail, actually, from that to the maximum. To back in the day, it was from 1 to 5, so I had a 4 plus, and I had distinction and all of that because of my effort. I got myself in my room with my grammar book, with dictionaries, and it was, I would say, my unofficial first translation job. I started trying to translate the grammar, which obviously wouldn't make sense word by word due to the rules, but then I would find patterns, I would start understanding what was written, and then eventually I really started thinking in English. Today, English is my first language. I only use Portuguese for work and now for the courses. So English became really my first language, is the one I speak 24/7, and poses no problem. I do think in English, of course, and it's easy. But back then I thought it was impossible, and that's what I say in my courses. That's what I tell my students. Don't think in English or in any other language, but since my course is in English, don't think in English if you want to write a sentence in Portuguese, because it won't come up properly due to the different rules and the different way, the different structure, and the different way words will appear in a sentence. So I am now in a position of telling my students the same thing that teacher told me, and it does work. I can assure you it does work. If you don't think in the language that you are talking, definitely won't work, because you will be thinking in another language, the words will come up translated, and obviously not making sense in some cases. For example, you may get away if you are doing it from French and Portuguese and French, because the grammar rules are basically the same, and there's a lot of similarities between the two languages. So if you're trying to do it between French and Portuguese, maybe you can get away with it a little, but definitely not between Portuguese and English, for example, because the rules are totally different. So this is why I created my course, because I wanted to give my students the opportunity to learn independently, to have independent learning, to create that independence, that confidence. I give you the rules, I give you all the vocabulary, lots of exercises. Every single lesson you'll have a little exercise to train, and you have the dictionaries that I provide you with, the online dictionaries that you can use as tools, and that will help you get that confidence from the start, that will allow you to develop your language skills in a way that you eventually become fluent. And that's the aim of the course, is that you become fluent. So I decided to talk about this because I really wanted, first of all, I really wanted to say something about what I have encountered in terms of people coming to me and asking me. Actually, as I said, I got into building these courses because people were actually asking me, why don't you do this? Because what is in the market at the moment, it really it's really not the best option. There is a lot of things that let you learn a few sentences, but doesn't get you anywhere really. And another problem is the localization problem. So most of the offer is in the Brazilian variant of Portuguese, which obviously it's not the one that is spoken in Portugal. So after consideration and thinking about it, I decided to embrace the challenge, and here I am. So you can now access my courses at my school, Updated Words at Teachable. I am running a special this month just for the language course. This does not apply for my translation related courses. It's just for my language related courses and bundles, because now I have the family pack where you can purchase the children and adult course and save $100. But if you buy the family pack, you can even stretch your bargain further, so stretch your savings further, because using the code Português25, I'll put it there, Português25, which means Portuguese 25, you will get another 15% off your pack or any of the courses individually. So until the end of the month, don't miss out on this opportunity and come and learn Portuguese with me. This was the reason I did these courses, because I really wanted to give people the opportunity of really learning the language, not just learning a few words here and there that eventually, 2-3 months later, they will totally forget. They have absolutely no structure there. They don't have that pillar that will keep them grounded in their language learning. So I wanted that. I wanted to provide that pillar, that what I would say, that structure that will keep you going and learning and being independent and being fluent, which is obviously the aim of the course. That's why I spoke about this today. This applies to any language, not just Portuguese, not just if you want to learn Portuguese. This applies to English, this applies to Spanish, to French, Italian, whatever language you are learning. It is always important that you are learning first the language of the country that you want to communicate with. For example, if you are doing business with Portugal, of course you want to learn the Portuguese. You don't want to learn any of the variants. Or if you want to speak or have business, for example, in Colombia, you would want to learn the Colombian variant of Spanish, not the Spanish itself, because you are not communicating in Spain and there might be differences between the two. So this is what I mean. You need to know where exactly you are going to be, where you are going to move or be on holidays, or which country you want to be in, and then know what language you need to learn, and if there's variants, which one of them should apply to you. That is one of the main things. Then learning the core of the language, learning the rules, learning those pillars, those basics of the language that will allow you to know the structure. And once you know the structure, then it's just putting more bricks and mortar, just more words, more connection words and more words, punctuation here and there, and that's it, and you're done. So if you know that structure, if you know those rules, how you build a sentence, what type of speech do you have, what sort of way do you have to speak. For example, Portuguese is very formal when you don't really know the person, when it's an acquaintance or an authority, you have to be rather formal. Now it's changing a little bit in regards to family, but before, even with family, there was a kind of a formality there. I remember, for example, my parents, they would treat my grandparents in a formal way. So it's something that you need to see. English, for example, is a very informal language. We treat ourselves informally. Of course, we have formal as well, but we don't use it as much, for example, as the case of the Portuguese language. And we need to know that. You need to know those differences, those cultural differences, to be also culturally fit. Because if you're going to go to a country and if you are going to use, for example, what you have in your country, in that country, that may get you in trouble, because you might not be culturally fit. You might be speaking the language, everything else, but then if you are not adhering to the basic principles of their culture, you may still get in troubled waters. So it is important to know all of these things. And I think that's the approach that I took with my course, giving you all that approach so you would know exactly what you should do in terms of language, in terms of culture, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. So if you are to move to Portugal, if you are to go there for a couple of weeks or months, you know how to navigate Portugal without any issues. This is why I did this. And that's all for today. I hope you liked my insider today. I hope it really help you understand why it is so important to know exactly what you should be looking for if you are trying to learn a second language. So it is easier for you to choose the right product and, of course, learn effectively. I think the aim here is learning effectively, because if you are going to invest your money in a product and in the end you are going to be unhappy because you don't feel that you have that capacity to talk to someone abroad and talk to them in their own language, then obviously your investment wasn't worth it, because it's not giving you the result that you were aimed for. So it is important that we know when we choose this type of product, what type of product is the best, and not just go for the fancy. Sometimes some platforms may be very popular and they may have lots of advertising behind them, and even many people that are happy with the things, etc. But then it all depends on what you are going to use the language for. And again, if you are going to invest your time and your money, supposedly to learn a second language or third or whatever it might be, it is much better that you are investing in some quality product that allows you to learn it properly, rather than just investing your money in something that is not giving you any substance, that is not going to give you that structure, that main structure that will allow you to grow from there. Because if you're going to have just that borderline level, you will never be able to go up and up on your levels. But if you get that structure, then with time, with study, with exercise and practice, you will be able to go up and up in your levels and, of course, improve your skills. I think that is the main thing about learning a language, is training. First, structure. Learning the structure of that language. Learning the core rules of that language. And then, of course, is training. Training, practice, practice, practice. As we say, practice makes perfect. And that's what we need in this type of situation. And if you learn the core language, if you learn the main situation, the main rules of that language, then you will be able to go up in your learning easily. And if you just go on those, borderline level type of products, that won't be possible. So this is why I created this. This month I'm running the promotion, launching promotion for the adult course. You can purchase any of the courses individually, so the children course or the adult course, and get a 15% discount, or you can buy the family pack, which includes the 2 courses for $200. So it's a $50 discount on each course, $100 in total. And if you use the promo code Português25 for all of these purchases, if you use the promo code Português25, you will get a further 15% discount. So that will be a bargain, I would say, because you're already saving $100 in the pack, and then you will get another 15% off. That's, I would say, a bargain. So don't miss out, and the entire family can learn Portuguese. Of course, if you buy my courses, you always have my support. You can always drop me a line and ask me any questions. I'm always open for help and help you out in your learning. So it's a, I would say, a lifetime relationship. Whatever you need, I always be here for you. And I think it's a great option. Now, in regards to this video, it's also a great option if you put a like and if you subscribe the channel with a little click on the bell so you get a new insider every week. You know, I have said this before, a lot of you come and don't do this. It's fine. I'm really happy my channel is growing. I have more and more viewers. Thank you so much. It wouldn't be possible if you guys were not there. So, but for example, if you guys put the like and that comment, that share, and the subscribe, the YouTube algorithm would get all of those things and it would give my content to more people, which in time would help my channel grow. So I would suggest that if you like to my comments, my videos every week, just put a like and subscribe the channel with a click on the bell so you get a notification every week. Before I go, I would like to thank you all for watching. I'll see you next week. Have a good one. Bye.